good afternoon. Thanks for coming to this month's DC Resource Bridge chat. So today we are going to give you guys a little bit of a peek behind the scenes to see exactly what we look at when the navigators create an intake, how they decide which legal services provider is going to receive a referral, and sort of what it looks like behind the curtain. And then I guess when we talk about who's going to receive a referral, how do we break ties if more than one legal services provider qualifies for this referral? So we've gotten quite a few questions from folks on that. So we thought we would show it to you today. All right. This is like close to the beginning of an intake process for a navigator. We're not going to have all of the screens up today, but if anyone is just your curiosity is really piqued from this presentation today and you want to see more, give me send me an email. We'll schedule time. We can actually look at some test intakes together and I can show you how the system works. But this will show you sort of the information we're collecting at the beginning of an intake from Marge Simpson, who is, you'll see in a second, calling us about a custody issue. And these are some new questions actually that we've just added to intakes, a new from the pilot, they've been added now. And the goal is to help us get this information so that we can see how effective we are, right? So we can figure out, has someone had to call us before? Have they had to call other legal services providers before? And if so, how many and who? How did they find out about us? We are collecting all sorts of little bits of data so that we can figure out how are people hearing about us? Are we, lessening the number of times they have to call another organization? Also, it helps us know if they've already called legal aid or Bread for the City, as this person has. We don't need to try them again for this referral. So that plays in a little bit to who we send the referral to. So on the next screen, so this is information that would look sort of familiar, I think, to those of you who've received referrals from us, because when you get, as a provider, or a referral and you clear conflicts or you tell us you will contact an applicant and you get more screens opening up, you'll see some of this information. And so what you don't see is at the very top, we've got internal work product navigator notes. So those are just internal notes among our team of what we did and when we've talked to the applicant and sort of steps we've taken. You'll see the legal issue, though. The provider will see the legal issue, the sub-issue that we've picked, the area of law that it falls under. And then you get like a text legal issue description, and that's going to be actual words that a navigator has written in to describe what the issue is, upcoming court dates, case numbers, any other information that we get. There's additional tabs that will then also give you like financial information, names of adverse parties and other interested parties and things like that. You can also see that we've got like the time sensitive marker here, and then some of the internal codes, like the case status codes, status date change. That's all stuff for us to use to know where in the process this referral is. So when we get through all of the screens and we're asking all the questions, the legal services providers, some of you on this call, have given us very detailed information about the kinds of clients you want us to send to you, the types of legal issues you work on, and any other limitations or restrictions or priorities that you have for those. And that's all living in the brain of the DC Resource Bridge. When a navigator is entering all the information on the fields that they can see, the brain is spinning in the background to see if we can get a match against the information we have and the information you told us, who matches. And so this is an example of what comes up for us when we've finished the intake inputting process. This now tells us who we have matches for. So it's kind of a confusing screen because we can't see the whole thing on one page. We have to scroll across. And so you also can't see the whole thing on one page. But at the very top, that banner, it actually tells you all the different things that we're matching against. So a top match is 5 if it's a matter that has a legal sub-issue. And then top match is 4 if it just has a legal matter. So that's just a question of how deep on the taxonomy that this matter goes. And so what we've built in most recently to address this question of how are we fairly picking who we send things to make sure that we spread the love around, we've created this new box that's called the preferred provider check. So what goes into the preferred provider check, and you can see who's popping up right now for Marge Simpson in this intake, it's going to be all of the top matches. So in this case, because we have a legal sub issue, there's 5 points of matching. And so you can see under total matches column, there's 5 in all of these, right? They all equally matched at the top. And what the brain is doing is it's actually figuring out who got a referral from us the longest ago, and they're putting them at the top. And who got it the next longest ago, they go next in line. And so it's actually doing all the thinking for us to figure out who we should send the referrals to. Now, there's a couple of caveats to us kind of following the order here. I say it's a rebuttable presumption that we would do them in order. So the time that we wouldn't do them in order is, for example, some legal services providers who are participants in the bridge right now have very specific criteria for who they can serve. And so I'm going to use Amara as an example because they're always at the top of my list because they're an A. So Amara will serve clients who are survivors of sex trafficking or who have been sex workers. So in order for us to figure out, to find eligible applicants for some of the more kind of niche eligibility organizations, we look into see who the top 5 winners are. And if any of those top 5 have special criteria, such as Amara's kind of 2 criteria, right? Survivors of sex trafficking or sex worker. If any of the 5 have those questions, then we ask the questions. We have trained the navigators to ask those questions in a trauma-informed way, and we don't want to have to ask them of everybody, so we wait to see who our kind of top 5 winners are. But if one of them is Amara, we would ask the question. If the applicant says yes to that question, then Amara just moves up to the top of the list. And the reason is because in that case, we've rebutted the presumption that we would do it in order because we are trying to find some of the applicants for the more kind of niche eligibility organizations. So if you're at one of those organizations, rest assured we are very much looking for applicants for you. What are some other examples? If someone tells us they've already tried, so you can see Bread for the City is the top one on this one for Marge Simpson. If Marge tells us, oh, I called Bread yesterday and told me no, we're not going to try to send a referral again to Bread. So part of the information we get at the beginning would maybe rebut the presumption that we would do these in order. So there's a couple, so it's a little bit of human thinking that goes into it, but largely we're trying to do it in order that the brain tells us to, because that tells us who got it the furthest to go. And we will, I'm sure, have questions about this, and we will answer them all, hopefully, in just a minute. This is just a screen I just want to show you guys because it is not part of the legal services provider view. This is what the navigators see. This is all fake intake information, so don't feel like you're seeing anything confidential here. But this is our intake queue, so you can actually see what we see. The navigators are able to also look at it through their own view. So I could look at just my intakes, or David could look at just his intakes. But this is the whole view, and it tells us what stage everything is in. So if you're a provider, when you give us feedback, I will call this applicant. I've finished my intake. I've accepted this referral. That changes these buttons for us. And so we're able to actually track, oh, good. Look at that. Marge Simpson or who this Bart Simpson went through intake. His is marked intake completed. So this is actually how the navigators are monitoring everything and then looking for whether we can see when status has changed. Some of you are going to start getting some automated emails from the DC Resource Bridge brain when things are past due. So this also lets us see when things are past due. And then you can see all of these right here are administratively opened. So I'm going to stop sharing. That is the presentation. And I think we can open up to questions if anybody has any. Audience question. Let's see. What is the turnaround on re-referral if we end up not being able to assist someone? Great question. And so we will try up to 3 times, assuming we have at least 3 matches. And the turnaround time is pretty quick. So you just saw that screen where the navigators can actually track every button that's been pushed. If you tell us a referral was not accepted, it will that will show up right on our queue, and the navigators will see that change and know that they have to go in and make another referral. So I would say certainly within 2 business days that would happen. It may happen within minutes of you telling us, but it sort of depends on call volumes and what the navigators are busy with at that particular moment. But it happens pretty quick. How long does your intake questionnaire take the navigators to go through with an applicant? We don't have clients, we have applicants. So the questionnaire to go with an applicant, it takes longer than it took during the pilot because we've added a good amount more, which is hopefully better collecting data for us to evaluate our program and evaluate next needs, and also to give you guys more information when we send referrals out to you. So it is lengthier. I would say it is taking somewhere between 20 minutes and 40 minutes for the phone calls. So it's actually would be shorter if we, it depends a lot on the caller. I conducted a few intakes myself last week and it was averaging me about 20, 25 minutes a call.
I have a question.
Mhm.
This is Jody. Um, I was trying to type it, but I couldn't type it fast enough. Um, I was just curious, now that you're 1 month in, whether you had any data or more anecdotal information to share with us about like volume,
Yeah,
connections, things you've learned so far, things that you might be changing as things go along.
I can tell you just like eyeballing some of the graphs we have here, the areas of law that we're getting calls about, by and far the largest is family law. I think a lot of that is because the Family Law Self-Help Office has been sending a lot of applicants our way. They got real familiar with how to use the form during the pilot and they've continued to use it, which is great, but that's, I think, skewing I'm not sure if that shows the need or if that shows a really good access point, right? So we need to like figure out how to replicate that across the city. It looks like consumer financial protection is in second place, but pretty distantly in second place. And then we've got a few public benefits calls, not a ton so far.
Thank you.
I can also say we've made referrals to a dozen different legal services providers. And that is about, that's a lot more, right, than we had participating in the pilot. It's very cool for me to be able to see all the different names that are popping up. I feel like I should shout you guys out right now, but I'm not. But like but just know if you've been getting referrals from us and you weren't part of the pilot, you make my day when I see your name pop up on here because it's like we know that we've brought in some new partners. We know that we've taught them how to use the bridge and we know that we're making referrals stick. So it's pretty exciting to see. So thank you all. Any other questions from anyone? One question that we also have received is some questions about us living at Legal Aid DC. So some questions some folks have had about asked about firewalls between us. And so you know, um, we spent a lot of time building up the project thinking about ethics and firewalls because we are housed within one of the providers. And so actually, sometimes to our detriment because we don't always get office-wide emails when there's like snacks on the fifth floor. But we are actually on a completely different server from Legal Aid DC, and we don't, while we share some physical office space, we don't ever co-office with anyone who's in legal aid. So we don't talk to legal aid attorneys about any matters other than their intake staff in the exact same way we talk to all other providers. They get emails from us when we make referrals, and then we hear back from them when they either accept them or don't accept them, just like we do with everybody else. But we have to be very careful, right? So we're not discussing anything that we hear as from the applicants. They have to be very careful not to say anything about their clients in front of us because, of course, we can serve everybody. So we don't do any conflict checks when folks call us because we are just getting information to make a referral. And so we might hear from both sides of a custody dispute, for example, and that's okay ethically for us to do that, but it certainly wouldn't be okay for our colleagues in legal aid to hear anything about that. And so that is, we have a lot of like kind of firewall stuff set up to keep us very separate.
Maybe one thing we could do is, if there's obviously any other questions, please keep asking. But if any of you all have feedback for us for what you've been
Oh, yeah.
seeing since the bridge has been launched, we're always really open to that as well.
Hi, so I just wanted to give you guys some feedback from our self-help center staff, and they report that they think the referral system is really easy to use and easy to, get the information from the customer and provide. So I just wanted to let you guys know that, but also other providers to let them know that it's really pretty easy to use.
Thank you for that feedback, Erin. We have heard from providers who have sent us referrals that they would like to have the option of emailing a copy of the document to themselves or printing it so that they can keep it in their own records. And that is on the list for Joseph to fix. So sometime in the next couple of weeks, you'll see that option when you make us a referral. Question here, is there a preference for people to use the referral form versus directing people to contact you directly? So our phones are open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. We do know, as all of you do, that if we can get a live person on the phone, we are more likely to make a contact than if we have to call them back. So if you have an applicant in front of you who feels comfortable giving us a call during those open hours, then it might be better. You can think, you can ask them, of course, what they would prefer. All things being equal, it might be better to just have them call us because we're more likely to have a navigator just pick the phone right up and make that connection. But we've had a very high success rate at getting people back on the phone when they come into us through the referral form. If you guys have questions after this, I think David put everything in the chat here. You've got email addresses for David and me. You're welcome to reach out to us at any time. We're always happy to hop on the
I
phone.
may take the last one, maybe.
Yes, Pablo, go ahead.
So just based on my question here, I read from David, thank you, that you guys are currently taking cases on family law, consumer law, public benefits, etc.
Mhm.
So what should we do if an individual approach us and they need a service on other area that is currently not being
Yeah.
processed by the DC Resource Bridge? Should we still refer him, her to you guys, or should we do what I've been doing, which is actually going to the very helpful website, which very makes it very easy to show what organizations work on what?
Right. So great question. It's like you were planted to put in a plug for the directory. So if you haven't been on our website, dcresourcebridge.org, what Pablo's talking about is there's a directory now, which is actually being fed by the same information that you all put into the brain of the bridge for us to match against. It is also feeding this directory. So if your provider, the profile you completed for us, I do this, I do that, I do this, that is now showing up to the public unless you selected to hide that information. So you actually can go in and make it not public if you want to. If it's public, then it's going to show up on the directory. So what Pablo's talking about is if you go in there and you say, oh, someone's asking me about immigration law, the bridge isn't doing that yet. Who does that? You can click on immigration and it will show you from the brain of our bridge who all has selected that. So
You want me to, should I share my screen and show
sure.
folks what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And while he's doing that, so the question, Pablo, I think is exactly what you've been doing, which is because otherwise we'll direct people back to the directory anyway, rather than picking an organization, for example, because we don't have the matching criteria built out yet for that. So yeah, if it's if it's an issue that we're not working on yet, sending them to the directory or helping them access the directory is a great option. And we'll continue to make improvements also to the directory. So, stay tuned for more upgrades to this as well. All right, any other questions? I see we're right at 2:30. Okay. Use the new inbox, use our personal email addresses. We're happy to talk. Keep using the bridge, keep using the directory. Thanks for coming to the chat, and we'll see you this time next month.